I saw a YouTube video once of a teacher holding up a glass of water in front of his class, and he asked them, "How heavy is this glass of water?" Different students chimed in, 8 ounces, 12 ounces, 16 ounces. After listening for a bit, he answered, "The actual weight of a glass of water does not matter. It ultimately depends on how long I hold it. If I hold it for a minute, nothing happens. If I hold it for an hour, my arm may begin to ache. If I hold it all day long, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. The weight of the glass hasn't changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. The stresses of life can be like this glass of water. If you think about them for a little bit, there's no real problem. But if you think about them a little longer, it begins to hurt. If you think about them all day long, you will feel numb and paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. The lesson? Always remember to put the glass down. Welcome to Real Talk with Mark West, a podcast about owning your shit and playing through life.
I do's what I want.
I do's what I want. If people would just accept that, we could get along. Come for me if you want to. I ain't scared. Shit, I bike in Chicago. I feel like I'm Neo in the Matrix, but I suck at it. I'm dodging right into the bullets, you know?
This is good therapy.
I'm your host, Mark West. Hey, and welcome to Real Talk with Mark West, where we are having better conversations with ourselves so we can have better conversations with others. But we're definitely making sure to have some fun along the way. I am super excited this week to be kicking off Mark West's Art of Living, Creating Your Own Happiness. We are going on a journey of working through fear and cultivating happiness in our lives. On top of episodes right here on this podcast, we've got a number of parties and events I'll be hosting here in Chicago to go along with all these talks. I'll, of course, be announcing those events here on this podcast and on my social media pages. So those in the area will have a chance to secure a spot and get in on all of the fun. Make sure you're following me on social media. And of course, make sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast. But let's get started. Today, I want to talk about happiness. And once you're done rolling your eyes, hear me out. I'm not about to start off on a coffee enema-fueled positivity campaign selling my personal brand of happiness. Nah, fuck that. I'm embarking on a social experiment. I'm holding on to a level of healthy optimism at this idea of inner freedom and inner peace, and I want to put these philosophies and practices to the test in my own life. I've observed and been convinced enough that maybe there's some merit to it, so I'm inviting you on that journey with me as I hold a stethoscope to life and see if I can crack it. So today, I want to set the groundwork and talk about my idea of happiness. And then I went out and asked people for their thoughts on what happiness is. And I've got those answers to share with you later on. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Where do I get off addressing mental health and happiness? Like, what are your credentials? I don't have, credentials, but I have a platform. And that seems to be all you need to be an expert nowadays, so here I am, an expert. but I'm also an actor, as I've said before, and my canvas is myself, and my paints are my experiences and emotions. The first step to putting on a character is gaining compassion for your character. As the actor, you never judge your character's choices. Your character believes they're right and that their choices are positive, so you have to side with your character. Even if in the context of the story, your character is the villain. In your mind, the character is right because the character believes they're right. So you have to find a way to rationalize their choices, to bring compassion to the situation. I was actually just cast as a villain in an upcoming performance here in Chicago, which won't be my first time. How does little old me keep being cast in such contrasting roles? Well, because they're not that contrasting after all. I mean, that might not be me 24/7, but there are definitely moments where I can act in a way that I believe to be positive, but is actually causing harm to those around me. I didn't think I was being a villain, but little did I know. The study of acting is the study of the human condition, and the job of the actor is to be a mirror, reflecting society back on itself. So I need to tell this character's story honestly, because there's someone out there who thinks exactly like this, and if I can take this journey for them on the safety of the stage or screen, then perhaps I can help them find healing and the understanding that they're looking for. Real Talk with Mark West is a podcast about the human condition. My Circus, My Monkeys was a podcast about the human condition. You remember that? Oh shit, talk about a circus. But I wanted to be messy in public, to live life out loud, and to say it's okay to feel. It's okay to love and trust and hope, and it's okay to fear and doubt and suffer. It's not only a part of life, that is life. Certain teachings call the untrained mind the monkey mind because it can't choose its focus. If you want to take a banana from a monkey, show it something shiny and it'll forget it's holding a banana. Those were the monkeys fucking up my circus, thoughts I couldn't control and couldn't help but focusing on, running loose in the town and terrorizing the townsfolk. I needed to train these fucking monkeys and make this circus fun again. For years, I've been drowning in self-hatred and self-doubt and a deep struggle with depression, and I've tried to make some final decisions with my life on a few occasions, so I don't want it to be taken as someone who has mastered the struggle and is wagging their finger at you. I'm taking the walk myself because I have always been driven by a deep longing and desire to be happy. To just sit alone in a room, any room, on a Thursday afternoon with no plans or expectations and simply be happy. If I can master my happiness, then I can master my life. That's my passion as a person and as an artist. My art form isn't acting, it's living, being in the moment. My training wasn't in human acting, it was in human being. And at the end of the day, we all want to be happy. You can't enjoy the bliss of happiness without knowing the pain of suffering. They are one in the same, two sides of the same coin. So how do we find a way to create and cultivate happiness? How do we put down our stress, worry, fear, and anxiety and pick up some happiness? Some say, focus on living. Just enjoy being alive. Easier said than done, I know. It sounds great in theory, but what the fuck does that even mean, huh? So, how the fuck do we do that? That's what I want to know. Let's find out together. But first, some science fiction. I probably never told you this, but I loves me some Star Trek, the series, and I really enjoyed the current season of Star Trek Discovery, which just ended this last week. And I'm sure I haven't mentioned this before, but Star Trek is just morality plays set in space. A show meant to teach you how to navigate life. Now, I was really not expecting how this past season ended, but I am here for it. It was kind of encouraging, and it reaffirmed this new direction I'm taking with my life. Now, I know you're too cool for all this, but just humor me. 2 seconds, please, 2 seconds. In this past season, all life in the galaxy was under threat from this cosmic phenomenon, which they were calling the DMA. A giant black hole-like occurrence that is 5 light years across. Now, a light year being the distance light can travel in a year, which is about 5 trillion miles in the vacuum of space. Now, not that this part has to do with the story, but just for the sake of math, the DMA is a black hole about 25 trillion miles across, chewing up space, destroying planets, and leaving a toxic void in its wake. Not to worry, this is science fiction. You are safe from the DMA, but there are 25 trillion other ways to die in space. Don't you worry. I'm gonna be talking more about space in the coming weeks. But in the show, Earth is not safe. And they can't stop the DMA. After studying it, they realize this thing is not natural. Someone made it. Someone outside the Milky Way galaxy. So, as lines are drawn and factions are formed around whether first contact with this alien species should be peaceful or an act of retaliations for the lives already lost, it's eventually decided, somewhat begrudgingly, that despite the billions of lives already lost, they should assume kind intentions and seek out a peaceful first contact. Now, you gotta check out the show to get the juicy details as to how people took that, because, of course, it did not go over well with some folks. Like, some people couldn't see past their loss. They were willing to do anything to keep experiencing that pain again, and they were also willing to do anything to end the pain they were going through. There was betrayal, theft, deception, kidnapping, mutiny, and fisticuffs. But they finally make it past the galactic barrier and to this faraway planet protected by super advanced technology. When this new species finds out exactly what their device is doing, they're grieved. They had no idea. It's a simple mining device used to find a rare element that powers their shield to protect their planet. Their former planet was destroyed, and they're not about to let that happen again. They promised to only mine in uninhabited space. Sounds reasonable. But someone spoke up. They said, that's not enough. You have to turn it off for good. Hiding behind a wall may calm your fears, but it won't keep you safe. The toxic void that you created will eventually reach you. We all live in the same space. Our fates are always interconnected. For the sake of protecting themselves from their past trauma, they inflicted that same trauma onto hundreds of billions of other lives. They were a villain and didn't even know it. So they turned off their machine and they vowed to make things right. I'm not going to tell you what lessons are in there because there are a few to unpack and I trust you can figure them out. But imagine how things could have gone if the Federation had instead decided to retaliate and attack their planet. What am I talking about? This is Star Trek. It's not real. When William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols had the first interracial TV kiss as Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura, it was okay because it wasn't real. Lieutenant Uhura isn't black. She's Starfleet. Let's get back to the subject at hand. The real shit. First thing we gotta figure out is, what is happiness? Now, you know me, I'm always about definitions and also discovering root words so we can get back to the actual meaning. Mostly because words change. Their usage and meaning differs over time. This is especially true when you're reading Shakespeare. Like, even though it's written in English, the definition of words he wrote back then isn't the same today. So some of what he says doesn't make much sense. The word happiness has been around for centuries and is a true English word. Most other words in our language are borrowed from other languages, but this one is an OG. It's from the Old Norse word, hap, meaning luck or chance. It could also mean an unforeseen event. Happiness has the exact same root word as happen, happenstance, haphazard, and mishap. All these words imply randomness, accidentals. Is that really what we're supposed to believe about happiness? It's about chance or luck? And it's entirely accidental? Well, that's what it can feel like sometimes, and that's what many people believe. But hap can also be used as a verb, and when it is, it means to come to pass or to be the case. And that's where I believe the true meaning of happiness is, the true definition. Happiness is something you bring to pass. It's something you make happen. Okay, never mind. Or when something is the case, you consider it to be true and correct. So happiness is true. Happiness is correct. In Shakespeare's day, happiness was defined as a pleasant mental state. Then in 1725, an Irish reverend brought a more political interpretation. He said that an action is best which accomplishes the greatest happiness for the greatest numbers. His opinion is actually the foundation of the idea of civic responsibility and modern-day politics in general. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Vote for my party because my party will make the most people happy. That's actually the definition being used when they wrote life, liberty, and civic responsibility. The pursuit of happiness. Many of Chicago's civic and cultural centers are named after prominent capitalists who funded their construction. That's true of most cities. But why would the vice president of Sears care to build a city planetarium? And why would the founder of an electric company build a civic opera house? For the pursuit of happiness, of course. Many people today believe happiness is the opposite or absence of suffering, usually defined by wealth, status, and success. Many people think happiness is zero-sum, so it is only acquired at someone else's expense. But there are times when we're not suffering, but we're still unhappy. Try spending a winter in the Midwest and maintain a bright and bubbly attitude. And it sadly needs to be said, but true happiness is never at someone else's expense. According to the original definition, happiness is a verb, like running, a state of being. And you can't force a state of being upon someone, or take it away. No more than I can take away the fact that you're a human. So, happiness is a practice, not a gamble or a hope or a competition. Happiness is something you do and work to get better at. You don't pursue running, you run. And the more you run, the easier it becomes, and the longer you can run. Mindfulness is a path towards cultivating and nurturing happiness on purpose, getting better at being happy. But before we go any deeper, I wanted to gauge where people were with their ideas on happiness. So I asked a few other people to shed some more light and share their opinions. I wanted to find some practical answers. Here's a bit of what people said.
Happiness as an idea is overrated. I feel at peace when I'm true to myself. And when I'm at peace, happiness seems to follow.
Happiness is joyful contentment. That feeling when your heart is full.
Happiness is feeling heard and supported and loved.
Happiness is content, euphoric, but not complacent.
Happiness? Yeah. I am peace, free will. Peace, free will, pretty much. Being able to do what I want, when I want.
I don't know, just like stability. I guess when you stable, when you're not worrying. Worrying is just like when you worrying, no matter what it is, you're not happy because like you're not satisfied, you're not stable, you always on your toes. Whenever you just like can sit back and everything around you, the people around you is, I guess like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like that because a lot of people are not stable. You can even have money and not be stable, not mentally stable. I feel like stability in all aspects is happiness.
Sure, I feel true. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Just being able to be like on point with your life, just
stable.
Every aspect.
You ain't worried about shit. But if you what I'm gonna eat.
If you
what I'm gonna eat.
I'll say financially too though. If I'm mentally and financially good
and physically, but mentally stable is the worst. When you mentally unstable, it's hard to be stable financially because you're so off mentally. It's hard.
Physically, what you mean? If you feel like shit, you gonna look like shit.
Okay, but if you mentally unstable, you're not gonna go to the gym. You're not gonna treat yourself physically the way. But you ain't gonna be able to mentally. Gotta be mental first, and then when you mentally, financially gonna come. Physically, you're gonna be good because you
really, the answer to that is happiness is a good move, bro.
I define happiness as being content with most of the things in your life. Not necessarily the material things, because that's stuff that doesn't really last all that long. I mean a lot of the friendships and relationships that you have with your family. I think that's what binds everything together, where you are in a space of total acceptance of what your life is and acceptance of who you are. I think that's true happiness, and finding the right circle for you in a world where people do throw sticks and stones, and where sometimes their perception of you is altered.
Happiness is taking a shit, busting a nut.
So it seems, despite the difference in methods used to be happy, everyone is pretty much looking for the same thing: a good mood. Not necessarily a pleasant atmosphere or pleasant situations, but a pleasant mood, a pleasant emotional state. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The bulk of my suffering exists in my mind. Thoughts keep running through my head that fuck up my mood and my attitude, and things continue to snowball from there because now I'm irritable and people keep getting in my face and saying good morning and shit, and I'm about to fucking lose it. My monkey mind is the real cause of my suffering. I keep focusing on the negative things happening around me, and I forget, shit, I'm holding a banana. Someone's trying to take my banana. Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your unguarded thoughts. The Buddha said that. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. The Stoics said that. When you think everything is someone else's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. The Dalai Lama said that. Joy does not rain upon you. Joy blooms within you. The yogis said that. In high school, when I first felt myself really losing my mental peace, I asked my dad about it. I don't remember the day specifically, but I remember it was daytime, and my dad had just picked me up from somewhere. I was riding alone with him in his truck. There weren't a lot of times growing up where I was alone with my dad. I took the chance to tell him what I was going through and see what I should do. I can't let go of mistakes and stupid things I've done in the past. Even way in the past. I keep revisiting it and beating myself up because of it. I don't like it. And he answered, I wish I could tell you what to do, but I do the same thing. I actually really appreciate his honesty. He didn't give me a textbook answer that he had never studied. He told me I wasn't alone. He told me that even those who are put together and doing well on the outside can still be suffering in their mind. He told me it was up to me to be my relief. I am a continuation. My struggles are not mine alone. Many of us struggle with the same fears, habits, and insecurities. I carry those with me as well. So I free myself. I free the world. I free my family in the past, present, and future, and my new, positive choices will leave a lasting impression. That's how you change the world. Happiness, true happiness, is understanding. And the first thing we need to understand is our mental drama is shared. We don't have to carry that alone. So when I say creating your own happiness, I mean finding ways to live and cope with difficulties, loss, and heavy emotions. Trusting myself to give myself a happy life that's sustainable. And I think the secret is to get out of my head. So let me ask you, how's your head? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you got something out of it, please leave a review, follow and subscribe, and of course, share this episode with a friend. It takes just a couple seconds, but the impact and my gratitude are immeasurable as every little bit helps in growing awareness. To find more episodes, or to talk back to me about your journey, visit heymarkwest.com. There you'll find my social media links, as well as additional resources for support. I'm Mark West, and until next time, don't forget, you are a rock star. You've got this. Join me next week for Real Talk with Mark West.